This is Russ. Yeah, I'm back in the car again. What's the weather out there now? It's about 47 degrees outside. It's a little earlier today. It's about 9:20 a.m. So I'm a little too early to go to Costco. So I figured I'd just drive a little bit. Maybe sit in the park area. We'll talk a little bit. Today is expected to be a fairly busy day for me for doing videos. I'm gonna make this video here, but I also hope to do at least 2 e-bike rides today because the weather is pretty decent, relatively speaking, for making a video. It's a little cloudy today, which is fine because it's not so harsh. I actually prefer to see if I can get cloudy days when I do e-bike reviews. I'm not going to review any bike today, but because then there's no harsh shadows on the bikes when I'm showing them. But the last couple of reviews that I've made, I just have to do it when I can. You know, when the weather is decent, I got to go out regardless whether it's sunny or cloudy or whatever. You know, you got to go. You got to do it, otherwise you'll never get it done. So, but today being a cloudy day, it should be good for a riding day. Now, I'm looking around and I'm noticing that the snow seems to have all melted off now. There's no snow on the grass or anything at this point, and that's just the way it's been. Our weather's been weird. Anyway, for today, I wanted to talk a little bit about my background. I've talked about this before. I can't always remember whether I discussed this stuff before on the More From Russ channel or the Russ is Right channel, but I know I've talked about this a couple of times now, but the question came up again, so I know that there's a lot of new people who come on board to watch the videos, so bear with me if you've heard this story before, but I felt it was probably a good time to probably go through it one more time. The question came up as to why did you move to California and didn't stay in the Chicago area? I think this became a question because I mentioned in our last video on this channel that I kind of missed 8 years, being out in California and not having at least the 8 more years with my dad and my mom around. When you move out, you're you're gone for a while, right? So anyway, let me go through real quickly why I even wanted to move to California. My original goal in life was to be either a recording engineer, basically a person who essentially mixes the sound on your records, or well, in these cases we don't use records anymore, but some of them do. Vinyl is still a big thing, but the person who mixes the sound for the recordings, for music. And I was either going to do that or be a professional musician. Those are the two main things I wanted to do in life. Wow, there's a lot more people here today. Yeah, that's okay. Let's find a spot I can park in. Yeah, a lot of people are parked out here. What's the deal? These people making videos too? Let's just back into a spot. Yeah, I like having a backup camera. Do you guys like that on your cars? It's on your. I have a little. Let's straighten it out better here. Little camera, little backup thing, so you know if you're lined up in the lane or you're not, right? There you go. It tells you when to stop, otherwise you hit the curb. All right. So, anyways, my original goal in life was to be a recording engineer or to be a musician. So somehow things got sidetracked for me. I went to school. Back in the day, they didn't have schools to teach you how to do recording engineering for audio. Most of the guys who were involved with that went to electronics school because that was the closest thing that you can get for a degree, knowing how electronics works, because obviously the equipment that you use is all electrical. So I have my bachelor's in electronics engineering with no intention ever to become an electronics engineer, but to be an audio engineer. Okay. I took a class when I was in high school, actually. I took a class at a recording studio learning how to do audio recording, and I did pretty well. I was the youngest guy in that class. It was a recording studio just teaching, I think it was a 10-week class on how to do recordings, and we would record a live band and stuff in their pro studio. It was a 16-track studio at the time. That particular instructor went on, his name is Gary Hedden, went on to become quite a famous engineer. He helped build many of the recording studios around. I think that was his thing after he did this studio, and he's worked with quite a few famous musicians, recording them. So anyway, I took that class when I was in high school, and even the producer of that band liked my mix so well. He says, "I want a copy of that mix," because it made the band sound good. So anyway, so I says I'm gonna be a recording engineer, and to do that, most of the work at that time was either going to be in Nashville, Tennessee, or out in California. So, and of course, as you know, I want to do things outside as well, and so California was always a thing that I always wanted to go to be at, because that's where the music industry was, and also it was year round. You can do things outside. Yeah, I don't really like wintertime in Chicago too much. I don't like shoveling the snow. I don't like driving in it. I don't like driving on ice. But as I mentioned in the last video, I kind of miss those 8 years I could have spent with family too, though. So yeah, my original goal was to move to California to do that, but after I graduated from school, my father opened a stereo store. And my mom told me many years later, after my dad had passed away, he says, "Your dad opened a store to keep you out of trouble." And I said, "I'm not a troublemaker, okay?" I says, "I don't know why he thinks." I think it's more like he felt that I didn't have any real direction in life. I didn't know what I was going to do. And to be a musician or to be a recording engineer, that's a hard job to get. So he figured, well, if we opened something that had music related to it, he would probably like it. And it's true. To this day, if home audio was as popular as it was back in the 70s and 80s, I would probably still be working in retailing high-end stereo equipment. Because I still enjoy it. I still. In fact, I'm going to go to the Axpona show this year in April, Schaumburg, Illinois. That's where the high-end audio companies come to show their equipment. So I'm going to be going there, and I'm going to bring you guys too. Yeah, I'm going to make a video while I'm out there. Now, I won't be able to, do live sound, because they'll have copyrighted music all over the place there, and you can't put that on YouTube. But I'll do voiceover, but I'll record some video so you can see some of the equipment and all that. So anyways, he opened that store for us, and I worked in my dad's stereo store for 8 years, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, we converted one of the sound rooms into a recording studio. So that I was able to use one sound room to record people in, and we put a window between the two studios, because we had 3 sound rooms in that store. We put a window between the 2 rooms so that one room was a control room where my recording gear was, and then the other room was where we would put people to perform. So I did that, but over time, after I got married, I felt that I still had the urge to at least try doing something in music recording. So I said, maybe we should move to LA, because that's where the music business basically is. And so we closed the store. My brother went on to do other things. He was helping me at the store as well, but he went on to do other things. And so it was just me basically running the store. My dad would do the books and stuff, but I would run the store. And we decided after getting married we'd move to LA, but when we got there. We sold the store off and moved everything in, and we literally moved ourselves. We drove a Ryder truck. Actually, it was U-Haul at that time. We drove a Ryder truck coming back because we had filled it with so much stuff. Because in 8 years, you accumulate a lot of things. But even after only 1 year of marriage, we accumulated enough to fill, I think it was a 20-foot truck or something like that. We filled it pretty well. So anyways, I didn't like LA. Yeah, we went out there. I didn't like it at all. I looked at this and I go, this feels like Chicago. I mean, I had this impression of, nice palm trees and things that look really cool out here. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I says, I don't like this place. I didn't like LA at all. Even just the trip we went there just to see it first before moving everything. So I was a little depressed about all this. I says, we closed our store and everything, and I'm not happy being here. My aunt lived in LA, and she said, well, why don't you go visit your cousin in San Diego? Maybe you'll feel better. So I went down there to see my cousin, and yeah, that's how I envisioned Southern California. It's basically San Diego. I says, well, I really like this, and my wife really liked it too. So I says, well, maybe we should just move to San Diego. But the problem was, it's going there. That's not where the music business is. Okay, so she says, well, if we move there, you're not going to have any job. You're not going to know what you're going to do, because we closed everything. We didn't have jobs. She had a job, and then she quit so we can move. So we both literally moved to California without any jobs or any prospects of anything. And we decided to go to San Diego and started looking for jobs. So my wife immediately got a job, because the things that she does, she's very good in. And I won't tell you exactly what she does, but she's really good in it. So she got picked up really quickly. She got a job real fast, and she's continued in that career path. But for me, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, So I actually hooked up with a stereo store that was out there at the time in San Diego, worked from them for maybe a couple of weeks, and I just said, I'm not going to do this. I says, I used to own a store. Why would I want to work for a store? So I got out of it, and I said, okay, I've got to decide what I'm going to do. So here I am, jobless, trying to decide, what am I going to do? And ultimately, she was helping me look for jobs in the paper, and she came across this thing that said evidence technician, right? Because I had purchased a police scanner while we were out there. I was just sitting there listening to the police scanner, and so she says, well, you want to be a cop? I go, I don't want to be a cop, but I will. I'll be interested in this evidence tech position. Crime scene work. Going to crime scenes and taking photographs, because I really enjoyed photography too. I always have. And so next thing you know, I go back to school to learn how to be an evidence technician. So that's how I ended up with 2 associate's degrees, one in evidence technology and one in pre-law and court management. So I actually have a bachelor's in electronics engineering, 2 associate's degrees in evidence technology and pre-law and court management. So while I never ended up becoming an audio engineer, the things that I learned and the things that I did over time, I ultimately ended up as a evidence technician, learning and how to use photography related things. And then when I worked for the district attorneys out there, I was doing a lot of audio enhancement work and things like that. So I used my skills that I learned in audio and essentially became a court qualified expert in forensic audio, and then later on also in forensic photography and videography. So it's kind of weird how things turned around for me. Yeah, I didn't end up being a music audio recording engineer, but I did end up working in some type of audio capacity. And of course, photography too. So, but to spread it even further, when we ended up moving back home to Chicago, I continued doing photography work by doing shooting weddings. I continued doing forensic audio work by doing audio enhancement work for the defense. At that point, defense attorneys would contact me to clean up the audio tapes for them. And then I also, opened up a photography school. So, and now I'm on YouTube. I've had a varied career. Interestingly, some of the people who attend our church, and I go to our small group Bible study things on Thursday nights. They've all like, when they find out what my background was, it's like, oh, this guy's done everything. I go, yeah, but sometimes you look at it and you go, well, there's other people who've stayed in their career paths, their entire lives and done very well with that. But I think a lot of them look at it as, well, you've had so much life experiences doing so many different things. I would have to say yes. I attribute that to my wife allowing me to do it. I mean, if she didn't allow me to do it, I would probably end up having to find a job and stick with it. I don't think I'd be as happy of a person, quite frankly. I think I would be I would be a totally different person than you see me today. But yeah, I've either worked for myself. Actually, I've worked for myself more so than I've worked with any other capacity for other people or other agencies. But yeah, I worked in law enforcement, and then ultimately when we moved back, I continued doing forensic work, but it was privately at that point. Yeah. And then, of course, I shot a lot of photography for weddings and things like that too. So, but yeah, I would say I've been pretty lucky doing the things that I've done. I mean, everything that I've done, the jobs that I've done are things that I actually liked. It's not like something I like got into and says, oh, I'm forced to, do whatever, like, well, oh, I had to become an exterminator or something like that. Oh, and I've done it for 20 years. I never really liked it. It's not that kind of job. It's something like, oh, I like photography. Oh, I get to shoot photos at weddings and people pay me, or hey, I get to enhance audio recordings from crime scenes and stuff and people pay me for that, So it's always been something interesting. Now here, even with the YouTube channel, right? It started out just to chronicle, myself, so that if I ever passed away, my wife, my daughter really would have something that she can look back on one day and say, yeah, that was my dad. She can hear me, see me, talk to me and all that. Because I was always behind the camera. I was never in front of the camera. Okay. And so I said, to do this would mean then I would actually have something that she could see and hear, one day if I'm ever dead and gone. It's kind of a weird thing to start out doing it that way. But here, if you look at it, it started out that way. My knee got replaced and I started talking about my knee, and then I bought a bike because I said I got to help my knee, and the next thing you know, I'm reviewing e-bikes, and the next thing you know, I'm doing this channel where I'm just sitting and talking to you guys again. So it's kind of gone full circle for YouTube. It started out me just coming and talking and doing whatever I wanted to on YouTube, just for myself essentially and for my family so they can see me. And now after doing these things, I'm still doing the e-bike reviews and riding my e-bike because I enjoy riding my bike. People pay me for that, right? So really everything I think I've done has been really kind of like fun things to do. Eventually the people ended up paying me for. Yeah, I would say that's really where my career path was. I enjoyed audio equipment. People paid me to run a store, right? And sell them equipment through my dad. I enjoy photography. I always have. In fact, Mrs. Wright and I took a photography class once, an evening class. And she did it only because she knew I liked photography. She could care less, she told me. She admitted that years later. She only did it because her boyfriend says he wanted to learn more about photography, so she went with him. So that's what we did, right? So the camera that she bought, I just took. I had a Canon AE1 program. I don't know if you guys remember these things. Maybe some of you guys do. And she had a Nikon FE, which is the aperture priority version. No, I think FE... Yeah, the FE was I think the shutter speed priority version camera. So I just took her camera so I could do weddings and things like that with it. And so I used the Canon and the Nikon. And eventually, I bought other cameras over time. I eventually I bought a Bronica camera, which is a medium format camera. But over time, I've gone through so many cameras. I mean, pro cameras, if you think about it, I've gone through 40 plus cameras over my time. You know, I had, and then I bought cameras, even when people weren't using cameras like that. I had 3 Hasselblads and, basically all of the Nikon camera range, starting with the D100, D200, D300, what else came out? D3, D4, D4S, so all the pro cameras. But anyways, we digress. So that's how I got involved doing what I do and why I moved to California. So this whole long story answers his question. Russ, why did you move to California? Is to go pursue the music recording situation, which never actually happened. Yeah, actually never happened. But see, today I still feel good that, I still use my skills. I play music at church, I'm doing photography related stuff now as a YouTuber rather than teaching photography out of my photography school. Actually, one of the ladies at our Thursday night Bible study, I don't know what we were talking about, but I mentioned that I was teaching students at the school, and she said, well, which school? I says, well, my school. She goes, what? And I said, yeah, I own the school. I mean, it's when people say that they've taught photography, they usually think they're teaching somewhere, right? But they don't think about the fact that, the guy started his own school and taught photography, yeah, because of the situation not being like a class, like a college course. You come and you take a class here, you take a class there, you take several classes, one class. We've had over 12,000 people come through my school. Yeah, and the time, it was 8 years for that too. I think about it, everything I've done has always been like 8 years for this and 8 years for that. I worked at my dad's stereo store for 8 years. We went to San Diego for 8 years, right? I had my photography school for 8 years. Or we've been 6 years now from YouTube. So am I going to quit YouTube after 8 years? I don't know. But here's a weird, if you're into numbers, which I am not, but for some people they believe in numbers, numerology. I don't believe in that stuff. But if you go based on the number 8, I do a lot of 8s. Okay, now go one step further. Chinese love 8 because they consider that a lucky number. Think about that, little strange. Don't you think that's strange? Everything I've done is like a series of 8s. And you're Chinese? Ooh, spooky. No, I'm not into that kind of stuff, okay? But it is kind of funny. So anyways, that's the story, all right? Now, today, because the weather is going to be around 60-ish degrees, I hope to do at least 2 e-bike rides today. I'll take 2 bikes out and I'll do some e-bike rides. But I wanted to do this video because it's early. What time is it now? 9:44. Okay, I can start heading towards Costco. I'm going to get my typical thing in the morning. I did contact Donut Jim, by the way. I mentioned before on the last video that we should maybe do a quick ride with Tom from Costco, who rides an e-bike as well. He knows Donut Jim because well, I won't go into the thing with Donut Jim, but he says, oh, this guy. I go, yeah, that guy. He goes, yeah, I know him. He goes, he comes here. So I was thinking, yeah, well, maybe the 3 of us could actually do a quick ride. I don't usually do group rides. I usually ride by myself. I prefer that, actually. But a couple friends. I said, okay, maybe we'll do one, and then maybe we'll just ride around the forest preserve or something. I mentioned I would probably never take the big bikes to do the forest preserve, but I know both these guys would like to see the wired bike. So maybe I'll take the wired bike if we do this ride together, and maybe we'll go through the forest preserves. Scare everybody with 3 guys on big bikes going down the road. The problem with the forest reserves, you can only do 15 miles an hour, or maybe we'll go off onto the streets and we can go a little bit quicker. But yeah, so I talked to Donut Jim. I called him up and I told him about it. He said, yeah, he'd be up for that, So yeah, we had a long talk. Actually, I haven't talked to him no, probably the whole winter. I didn't talk to him, but I know Donut Jim because he was the donut vendor in our area. He would do the farmers markets and things. He's the donut vendor there. And I was riding my Rad Rover 5, the very first bike I bought, and he came running over to take a look at my bike because he had just bought a electric XP 2.0, but he was waiting for delivery, but he wanted to see my bike. So he introduced himself and he told me he was looking and waiting for his bike. He wanted to see my bike. So that's how I got to know him, and we became friends, just talking about bikes and things. So he's known me since the very first bike, and actually before the whole YouTube e-bike thing started. I told him I was a YouTuber, but I wasn't doing e-bike reviews at that time. But so he's seen it from when it started to where we're at today. 20-something thousand, 21,000. What are we at? Something like that. Subscribers now. So yeah, things have progressed quite a bit in the years that I've known him. So how long have I known Donut Jim? 4 years now, something like that. Yeah, Tom I've known a year and a half, 2 years, something, I don't know, something like that. Anyways, that's about it. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Let me know what you think about this craziness of my life story of work and why we ended up out in California. Sorry for those who've heard this story before. I had to hear it again, but yeah, I thought maybe it'd be a good time to fill you guys in on it. Talk to you guys next time.